How's everybody doing? Okay, today we're doing incompatibility of signs. Gemini and Scorpio. Okay, we are going to jump right in and discuss how this combination, Gemini and Scorpio, correlates with nature. Okay? Scorpio is fixed water, and Gemini is mutable air. So where do we find this combination in nature? Right? All right. Well, first of all, let's discuss Scorpio. Scorpio is fixed water. So we can attribute Scorpio to be a lake. Still waters run deep. Or we can attribute Scorpio to a river stream. Fresh water. A lake is also fresh water because there's no salt. Like the ocean, which is salt water, which is Pisces, mutable water. But in Scorpio, it's fixed water. So therefore, it's fresh water, no salt. Aquifers, which are oceans of water underneath the Earth's crust. Aquifers also falls under Scorpio, fixed water. Our fresh water that we drink comes from aquifers, which also is attributed to Scorpio. Pineapple rum punch from Jamaica. Delicious. Tough. So I have to have very little because it's tough. A lot of ice. It gets you there. I'm happy to be doing my compatibility and incompatibility of signs. I'll do other series, once the money is right. You all know, I've already said that. Until that is right, there'll be no more series until that is done. So I am going to now continue with the compatibility and incompatibility of signs, dealing with incompatibility, Scorpio and Gemini. A few announcements. You all know that I'm going to Shanghai in a couple of days, the 11th, right? And then from there I'll be in Singapore, and I'll be doing some conferences there. And if you guys have the money, you fly out there, meet me at the conference. I'll give you all the details 4 or 5 days before I get there. So the hotel arrangement and all that stuff and what you got to pay, to come see me. All of that will be prearranged once I get to Singapore. I'm going to start the preliminaries today. Okay? That's the announcement I got to give. Okay? Understand that Mercury is going retrograde next month. So guys, take care of business now so you don't get a headache. All of July is no good. Mercury goes retrograde. Nothing will move until August, which is the time of Leo. I love it. I love it. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into incompatibility of signs, Scorpio and Gemini. Okay? Now, we're going to break this into categories. We have to. We have to break it into categories. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. Okay. Let's talk about the sexual and intimacy aspect of Gemini and Scorpio. Okay? You have to understand that a sexual relationship with or between a Scorpio and a Gemini is like it's profound. It's profound. It's deep. It is probably the most profound and the most deepest level of human intimacy that can be experienced. Remember the mythology: Pluto and Virgo, or Scorpio and Virgo. The myth of Persephone being abducted into the underworld and then falling in love with the prince of the underworld. And then she rules Hades with him half of the year, and then goes out into the spring and rules the earth outside of Hades. We see something similar when we're dealing with Gemini, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which also rules Virgo. So the mythology of the Virgo, the Virgin, and Pluto, or Hades, Scorpio, can be antiquated a little bit with Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. No? So Gemini knows Scorpio. Geminis are able to subdue Scorpio. Geminis are able to bypass and kind of like flow away from the dramas and vicissitudes of Scorpio. Hold on, I think I left the stove on. I'm gonna run real quick. I'm a large house. I'm gonna have to run real quick. Real quick. Thank you. Saturn makes me work. So understand that we have here incompatibility of signs because we're dealing with water, fixed water, and mutable air. Where do we see this combination in nature? Well, I just mentioned Scorpio, fixed water, lakes like Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, up by Canada, the rivers, or water trapped underneath the earth, what we call aquifers. All that falls under Scorpio. Gemini is mutable air. How does this combine? And where do we see this combination in nature? We actually don't. Not at the mundane level. But if we are to attribute on a high level, at a high cosmic level, the fixed waters of Scorpio, we can make a correlation with the ethers of space. And God moved upon the faces of the waters. So the water that we are talking about is not the water that we find on Earth when it comes to this combination. It is the ethers of space, bringing the vibration of Scorpio on a higher octave vibration that elevates it to the ego or the sphinx, not the serpent and the scorpion, which is the lower vibration and expression of the Scorpio in nature, and its lowest form and vibration. So, with Gemini being mutable air, we can then find a parallel between the primordial waters or ethers of space and the breadth and expansion of those ethers, which is something that is accomplished when we're dealing with Gemini. So this combination between Scorpio and Gemini can be a highly cosmic and spiritual union of the highest principles. But that's not something that you're going to encounter before age 30. That'll happen past age 30. Before age 30, you're not going to encounter that type of philosophy or high level of thinking among young people. they have to evolve from that ignorance to the level of wisdom in which they can then tap into the principles inherent when you're dealing with Gemini and Scorpio. So when we're dealing with incompatibility of signs, you have to understand that water and air don't mix. When we're dealing with the mundane level down here. But if we go esoteric, water and air blend perfectly. Because we're talking about the waters and ethers of space. And the air at this point, dealing spiritually and esoterically, is not something that you breathe in to breathe and live and sustain yourself in. It becomes a breath, a sheet, like the fabric of space-time. That's air. It's an expansion of consciousness. And with the water, there's emotional, compassion, and empathy that goes with that breadth and expansion of knowledge attributed to the dark matter, which is attributed to Gemini. It's a beautiful harmony, but you have to see it to appreciate it. And that functions on a higher octave than the polarity of the lower nature of Gemini and Scorpio, which is attributed to water and air on the lower level. If we're dealing with people that are below age 30 with this combination, we are dealing with all kinds of power struggles, all kinds of angry, knee-jerk retaliations against each other if they're below 30 because they don't know who they are and they don't know their own essences. The only way they get to know themselves is by a reflection of people outside of who they are. If someone tells them who they are or shows them who they are, they learn more from that than if they're actually told who they are or who they are not. So with this combination, there is something to say concerning empirical experiences. So understand that we have two dichotomies going on here. We have the esoteric and the mundane. And both of them are different. But we're not talking about the esoteric. So we're going to keep it at the level of the mundane. Let's jump in and discuss the sexual aspect of this combination. A sexual relationship between a Gemini and a Scorpio is like a connection of the deepest and the highest point on the planet. Gemini is so far off from Scorpio's emotional world that good sex between them seems like charts. Well, it seems like something almost impossible to happen. This couple needs to be surrounded and supported by other positions in their natal charts if they are to, stand a chance of a lasting, loving, sexual relationship. Because the fact of the matter is that Scorpio is fixed and he or she is not going to compromise for nobody. For nobody. But then, if we look at Gemini, Gemini is the same way. Gemini does not want to compromise. Gemini doesn't want to give logic and favor to somebody outside of them because if they do that, then they have to, by admonition, confess that someone is smarter than they are and able to derive an answer that they should. And Gemini is not going to give that up for nobody. For nobody. And neither will Scorpio. So then it becomes like a Mexican standoff. Both these signs have tremendous will, and there's a battle of wills between Scorpio and Gemini. So, how do you strike a balance with this combination? How do you make it work? The way you make it work is by having outside interests that neither of you share. If you can have outside interests outside of the context of the relationship, it can work. Because then you won't be attacking each other and pinning against each other when things don't go right. And Gemini and Scorpio are very good at doing this. They're very good at abusing and mistreating and downright destroying other human beings for their whim or because they can figure out their own shit. So then they gotta project that onto other people and go out and destroy them. I will never respect that of Scorpio or Gemini. But if you are above age 30, it is unlikely that you will see this type of behavior or dichotomy with this combination. But you will see it if we're talking about experiences below age 30. Here is where this combination can award you the worst of the worst of the worst human experiences possible. But this is true of all combinations, especially below age 30, because we're still growing, we're still evolving. So too with this combination between Gemini and Scorpio. So it's a matter of striking a balance and knowing how to commune on a mundane level with this combination. Because if that's not stressed or emphasized, then there's no way that this can be fixed in a way that can be healthy. Okay? So let's go a little deeper with this combination. And we're going to touch on a couple of factions concerning this combination. Um, One thing that we have to say, and we're going to have to fucking admit it. I mean, come on. We have to fucking admit it. Gemini can be superficial, and there is no other sign who knows this better than Scorpio. Scorpio knows. Scorpio got Gemini's number. The question is, does Gemini have Scorpio's number? Not really. Because the Gemini energy is too distracted to go deeper and see the motives behind Scorpio. It's a dangerous position to be in. Okay? You have to understand that the air element combined with the rule of Mercury and its lack of emotion is close to Scorpio's worst nightmare. It's funny. And this in itself is paradoxical. Because Scorpios could give a shit about how you feel and how they make you feel. They ain't concerned about that. But it's very interesting that when it comes to Virgo, Scorpio can help, or Gemini, because they're both ruled by Mercury. Scorpios can't help but feel a certain way when they're ignored by Gemini or Virgo. We are the two signs of the zodiac that can go like this to Scorpio. You don't impress us, you don't scare us, and we are certainly not going to bend to your will. And Scorpios, they hate that about Virgos and Geminis, but secretly they admire it. Because Scorpios, like the cardinal signs, they admire strength. And you're going to find a lot of that with Gemini and Virgo. Because like Scorpio, we take no punches, we hold no punches, and we take no prisoners. And Scorpio is the same way. Okay? We're not impressed with the antics of Scorpio or his ability to kill and destroy. We're not concerned or impressed. Concerned or impressed by it. We know how to bypass Scorpio. And so does Gemini. But Virgo more so than Gemini. Gemini will catch on but Gemini has to get fall in a net, trapped in a web of a net. And when she feels vulnerable and the scorpion is coming to sting her and she's trapped in the web, then the Gemini wakes up like, oh, wait a minute. Let me grab the tail of the scorpion and break it apart. No, he ain't gonna kill me. And the Gemini jumps out, you know? Gemini is tough to defeat, like Virgo, which is why these two signs, even though we are dealing with a incompatibility, air and water, which is a 90-degree square, there is tremendous respect and strength within this combination that can actually survive the War of the Roses. How is this accomplished? How do we strike a balance with this combination? There has to be a balance with this combination. How do you strike it? Well, the first thing you have to understand and you have to realize is that with this combination, water and air, is that the irreconcilable differences will occur with this combination on the mental plane. Before, I mean, the issues that will drive this combination apart is the fact that they are not able to reach a mutual ability intellectually. Because Gemini and Scorpio are very, very, very highly intellectual signs, despite anything and everything else that we attribute to this combination. But here's the thing. This is absolutely true in theory, but in actual mundane practice, we don't have many Scorpio Geminis that are willing to work and roll up their sleeves and do the work that will involve evolution and as individual entities within the relationship and as a relationship unit as a whole. So where do you strike the balance that this can be something that can be worked through and can be harmonized? This is something that many astrologers have not touched on and very few understand. And we, as the older astrologers, we have to make sense of it so we can train future astrologers when they eventually will take our place when we die. And they can carry on the torch. So there's a lot of gray area in this aspect of astrology that is there to challenge us, the astrologer, as to how we are going to arrive at a synthesis of what's going on in your life. Are we going to use the tried and true model, or are we going to step outside the box and find other modalities of therapy and human intervention that can lead to emotional corrective experiences, as psychiatrists are accustomed to using the term? So it becomes a serious situation and a serious quandary when we have a culture and a society that's not nurturing or fostering the undercurrents of the youth and similar groups. We might not be aware of it, but it does come back and bite us in the ass. Because at the end of the day, it's not for us to have children and then throw them into the school system and let the teachers be parents, guidance counselors, lunch maids, and provide everything for the child. It's a disenfranchised, not just to the parent, to the child, but also to the community that endorses and fosters this. Because then there's no growth and evolution. Have you ever seen a spoiled brat, a trust fund baby, rise to maturity and do what he's got to do? It usually doesn't happen unless there's a tragedy that causes him to have no choice to go that direction. But if that were never to happen, he will lead an antithetical life where nothing will be required of him. This is the situation when you're dealing with Gemini and Scorpio, and we're done with part 1.